I think we made Best Yet to Come a church song yesterday. I do believe it's a Frank Sinatra one. It just depends which church you're at as we go through. Yesterday, I delivered the invocation for the National Philanthropy Day celebration in New Orleans at the Hyatt, and one of my acquaintances just made up a bio for me, Miss Carmelita, said, and I am a United Methodist minister, but said he is well known as a theologian and a scientist. Now, theologian, I figured out from the minister part, although, yes, I cannot lay claim to it. The scientist part, I still have no clue, but at least I got to see the script before it was read out loud, because that would be slightly awkward. I'm with the Louisiana Association of Nonprofit Organizations, and I am the director of the Institute for Nonprofit Excellence, and it is an honor to work with nonprofits large and small throughout the state to strengthen them, to strengthen the state, to make a difference. That work has led me to strategic planning with the Capital Area United Way and to the Coalition Restore Coastal Louisiana and organizations that have a statewide reach, but also to important grassroots organizing. And the thing I love about this project is it brings the two together. We need to make a statewide impact, but the nature of this problem, a problem that leads Louisiana to incarcerate 1% of its population and to send half of them back, the ones that should be returning, back within 3 years, that problem requires not only systemic change, not only leadership at the highest levels of our state, but also leadership in each community, not just New Orleans or Baton Rouge or Shreveport, but each of our markets. Monroe can keep going down to the block level, because this is about people and it is about relationship and it is about a change that must occur for our state to thrive. And I am honored to work in this project with the Louisiana Public Health Institute, with Alex Preeb last night at a Taste of Louisiana. Not enough of y'all were there. Man, they had boudin balls, right? They had, I'm not trying to rub it in, crawfish etouffee and fried catfish. I am rubbing it in. It was good stuff. I said I'm with Alex. Alex Preeb is the director of qualitative management, qualitative research. Has been working with me on this project. Is working on it before I came on board, focused on evidence-based practices and how to build this movement with the best research we have available so that we know we're working smart. She is assisted by Liz Keenan, who is a graduate student at Tulane University. And then also she brought along some brass. Associate Director of LPHI, Peter Gamache, is going to be working with us just today, because you don't care about reentry generally. It's just today you're doing it to support her. No, that's not true. But you know, y'all, as we begin the transition to a conversation about reentry, I've got to guess if you're like some of my friends in this movement, that when you're back home, you're just a little bit weird, right? I mean, people are like, you do what? Yep. For whom? I'm an Arkansas boy, so I have to train myself to say whom. It's like, what? It's just a beautiful thing to be here together. One of the major outcomes of this gathering is for you to have 1, 2, or 3 other names, and you can go to them and say, you know what, I've got this problem, and I don't know what to do. To put a face to a name that you may have heard before. All of these are important outcomes from this gathering. But we are focused today on how to take this experience and move it forward. Together, all of us, in relationship with one another and with the returning citizens who are so important to the future of this state. We've learned so much. And as Ms. Carmelita said, write down 1 or 2 notes. Right? What am I going to do Monday because I was here? I always ask that. When people come back from the great convention, I mean, this is a healing place is beautiful, Baton Rouge is beautiful, but you know the ones I'm talking about. When they go off to Vegas, or as one of my friends did recently, to Puerto Rico, right? And the sands of Puerto Rico. The first thing, especially when they go to Puerto Rico, I'm like, right? It's 29 degrees. What did you learn there? Right? We paid for your ticket. You took your time off. What is it that you learned that will change? And I want y'all to write those down, just one or two, because that's all people are going to listen to. That's all they're going to listen to, one or two. But then, and please keep bringing those Post-it notes up. I'm sorry I wasn't mic'd at the beginning, but keep bringing them up. Ideas that you have, especially around policy, advocacy, communications, and organizational learning. This is how they're lined out up here. And don't worry if the Post-it should go here or there, just put it somewhere. We'll capture all this learning. If you've got an idea, a big burning idea, maybe you had the idea yesterday when Alex gave you the survey. Oh, if we just had this, it would touch lives all around the state. I saw one idea that came out in the survey results. I was up early this morning working. Alex was up late. She was a late shift. I was early shift. And she was both because she had to drive in from New Orleans. But one of the ideas that I saw that doesn't fit in any of these categories, I don't think, and Alex, I don't know if it struck you as well, someone said, you know what, across the state we have trouble getting people the equipment they need for jobs. Yeah. Is there some way that together we could, first of all, identify those needs and figure out a way together, maybe to pool purchase? I don't know. I mean, we can think about this. If it's work boots, maybe we need to go to Red Wing and say, you know what? Hey, you want to make a corporate contribution? Right? I mean, that's the sort of thinking we're talking about today. And that's from one comment. So we're going to go ahead and take a moment, because this is what it's all about. It's making sure we strain all the learning possible out of this time, out of this investment of time we've made. And we take those little nuggets or those big ideas and we push forward. Because it is critical that we work together. There are common challenges we face in each of our regions. There are questions that are burning, and we need to push forward to action as a group to build a statewide effort to work in conjunction with RAC, in conversation with RAC, but saying that we know it can't just be a state effort, a state government effort. It's going to require all of us here. And the reason we're here on a Friday morning, because we could be somewhere else, the reason we're here is that we want to serve. We want to make a difference. We want to see the incarceration rate in this state, which is a moral outrage, reduced. And we want to do so, as we heard yesterday, in a way that not only saves dollars, because point blank, we don't have enough money to keep this up, but that leads to greater public safety. I was speaking with one of our employees at Llano, and she got the money thing, but she said, oh, but we've locked all these people up. Y'all hear this ever? And it's still scary, right? I think we're here the weird people who think, you know what, maybe the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. Maybe we need to be thinking smarter about this, and maybe it's that we need to build relationship that push us forward. In just a moment, I'm going to ask James Wyndham and Livonia Malvo to come up and talk about why a statewide reentry alliance. We'll take just about 2, 3, 4 minutes to do that, and then I will push us into a conversation about a draft vision statement. It's just going to be used for the purposes of our gathering today to clarify what it is that we want to do. Why is it that we're working? How will Louisiana be different because of what we're doing? And this is not going to be something we wordsmith, something we use to get focus before we go through. James and Livonia, y'all nearby? Come through, and you have a mic. Got an embarrassment of AV resources, y'all. We're not just using PowerPoint. We're using Presenter Pro. Is that right back there in front of the house? Yay! but we want to make sure we've got the equipment we need to do our job and we're not overwhelmed. That's actually a metaphor for how we do our work. We want to right-size stuff, right? We don't want all the tech gizmos that we find ourselves fumbling with going through. Y'all, if you could push us through to the why statewide slide, the next slide. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. James, why a statewide alliance from your perspective?
Boy, I only got 2 minutes? No. When I was asked to give this, first thing I thought of was, do you all remember the science fiction movie where they talked about the Borg?
Oh, yes. You're a geek?
Yeah.
I did not know he stunk up on me as a geek.
But the thing that I thought about was how effective and efficient they were.
Yeah.
And when I think about, now true enough, I don't want to walk around being assimilated, but...
That's important clarification, James. Thank you.
But when I think of why we need a statewide reentry effort, is because we want to become more effective, we want to be efficient, and we want to be successful. Not only for ourselves because of the resources that Corey has already alluded to, but because of the people that we're going to be working with. Now, when you think of the effectiveness of any program, let's think about how effective McDonald's is by doing the same thing over and over again. We talk about best practices. We talk about evidence-based. Can you imagine how effective and efficient our reentry programs would be if everyone talked the same language, did the same thing, and got the same data? Can you imagine how effective those programs would be and how successful they would be? And imagine this, because we're supplying the right data, getting the right numbers, now when we apply for grants, when we seek funding, there's no doors held against us because we're talking and doing the same thing.
Thank you for that.
James, I'm going to piggyback on you. You mentioned the effectiveness and efficiency. Before I share, I want the group to understand my perspective. My name is Lavonia Malvo. I am a judicial administrator with Opelousas City Court, limited jurisdictional court in St. Landry Parish, okay? When we speak of reentry, Corey, your opening question, how many of you go back into your community and you feel, what was it?
Weird. Like James does on a regular basis about the Star Trek thing.
The unique position I find myself in.
That's what would be nicer.
Unique position I find myself in serving in our parish coalition, not regional, but parish, is that I'm the only one at the table representing the judiciary. Yesterday, we had the privilege of having not one, but two judges speak to us. Yes. So what James spoke about being effective and efficient in what we do with this movement, with this work, I'm looking at comprehensively addressing reentry through connectedness and cohesion. So the need for the statewide alliance provides for that. I think one of our breakout areas, workshops dealt with no more silos. So as we comprehensively look at statewide alliances forming that, we can remain connected with one another, but yet build cohesion as we address this, not in a silo, but together.
Beautiful. As we say in the business, please keep bringing your ideas up here. We want to see these sheets just fall off the easels with ideas. We will have an opportunity to pursue each of these, from organizational development and learning, which I heard clearly in this call for us to be effective and efficient and successful, to communications and how it is that we tell Louisiana, many different Louisianans, from business to the citizens in the streets, that reentry is their problem, and it is weird to not think about reentry and how it is that we can be more successful. The advocacy to drive change legislatively, and then on over to policy. A lot of ideas over there about ways laws can be changed, about ways government practices can be changed in order to make a difference for the future. Let's go to the next slide, which is a draft vision statement, and I want us to live here Vision statements take many forms, but they are always about the impact that will result from the work that you're doing, and they are always calls for you to engage and others to engage in an important work. This vision statement goes on a bit longer than the cool kids would do. All right, the cool kids today, I don't know if you notice, corporate mission and vision statements, if it gets to be a whole sentence, it's too long. This is not something that's outward facing. This is just for us today, right? Just for today. I know we have many different languages even for those folks who are coming back from prison. How is it that we talk about them and refer to them? But I want us just to begin with this focus. The Reentry Alliance works for a future in which every returning citizen in Louisiana has access to the services and resources needed for a productive, crime-free life. All right, reactions. We got the mic still out there? Someone, I know it's a big group to talk, right back there.
Well, I think the vision statement should not just be for today. I think working on a conference planning committee,
Yes.
I think the conference should adopt the vision statement, and I would hope that we vote, make it formal with the population that's sitting in this church. Make the vision statement something that will survive with the conference. And to me, it should represent a commitment from us to continue this conference until reentry is no longer viewed as a problem. Because I have a problem with reentry being viewed as a problem. I think that might be one of the problems. The other thing, looking at the vision statement, I would like the first sentence to actually be the Reentry Alliance of Louisiana, so that it mimics the way we came up with the title for the conference, Real Help. So I would like it to say the Reentry Alliance of Louisiana works, and then that would connect it to the conference, and hopefully we'll adopt it today. Thank you.
Okay, and maybe at the end of the day, and one other thing, since we're not going to get as pretty as we'd want during this time, we can make sure that we have, by consensus, everyone can live with it, is what I mean by consensus here. We have all of the areas that need to be touched, and we'll have an opportunity. Actually, you can jot down thoughts that you have about the vision statement as we're sitting here. This is just the beginning, by the way. It's going to go on. Yes?
I just thought of something else, too. In strategic planning, maybe part of the conference should be to review the vision statement as a conference body and adjust it as it goes. So, eventually we may come up with some little bylaws for the conference. I don't know, but I think it should be the conference vision statement.
And wonderful point. And oftentimes these vision statements will look forward just, say, 10 years and say, this is very specific. Hey, Jan, this is very specific. We want to see in 10 years the recidivism rate drop to X, right? 10% off or whatever it is that we're going to push through. And to revisit that on an annual basis, to your point, might be an extremely effective way to ensure that you are pushing forward and to hold yourselves accountable. Accountability is important. We talk about accountability to the returning citizens all the time. But let's hold ourselves accountable to this. And let's hold government accountable. I mean, to do even, and this is just another idea. I don't have ownership of this. Y'all have ownership. But another idea would be to report every year, this is the state of reentry, right? And by the way, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this, by the way, next year to have all of the members of the Reentry Advisory Council at this session, at some point or another, at this conference. Does that seem? We got some. All right.
Why can't we just go ahead and put it out there that our goal is that Louisiana would not have the highest,
Yeah.
that Louisiana would not be the state with the highest incarceration rate.
Right.
Make
Right.
that our vision. We're gonna go on until we're not, but that's gonna be kind of hard to measure because other states might increase their incarceration rate.
Yeah, that's
But we just don't wanna be on
the
top.
unfortunate issue. So we're working on the Kids Count program on another project, and unfortunately, Louisiana's rankings on Kids Count rose because other states with the crisis of the past few years saw worse results for their kids. That's not what we want. All right, that's not what we want. I'll say this again. This is going to get dangerously close to wordsmithing. The committee of the whole is pretty big here, but if we are talking about a vision long-term, I think getting into those issues of incarceration certainly makes sense. We're certainly keeping those notes. So, but this is the general direction we're going, huh? I mean, it seems fair?
Yeah, one word I'd like to say, I know you don't want to get too wordy in this, but
Yes.
it's sustainable services and resources.
Okay. Because we're worried about funding, right?
Exactly right.
Okay. We're taking those notes. Keep them coming. Keep the ideas coming. I feel like it's an altar call, yeah? Altar call to ideas, right? Altar call to ideas. That's a beautiful thing. I'm going to work that metaphor at some point at another time as we come through. So those are very good suggestions. If you push the presentation forward, we've got more. It goes on and gets a little more detailed, okay, in terms of the activities that are involved. We can just push to the next slide. I think they went to sleep. We and our member coalitions. So this is a little tweak based on Ohio and actually some work in Virginia. We and our member coalitions. And this is where you'll see how the breakout sessions formed. Okay, I want y'all to understand the logic. Even though we may have different interests or different task groups that form over time. First of all, promote public awareness of the challenges of successful reentry. And that's the communications piece, right? And that's going to take many different forms as we target different audiences. Business may hear one thing. The person on the street at the Rotary Club or wherever, the general public may hear another. So that's important. Identify resources to assist returning citizens and address gaps in services. That would fall over here, right? And how is it that we find sustainability for these services? Recognizing, from my work with Ms. Malvo in Opelousas, services there, mental health, substance abuse, et cetera, look a lot different than they do in Baton Rouge and look different than they do in Shreveport and Monroe or New Orleans yet again. And that's an issue. And by the way, for our purposes, it's a challenge, but it's also a challenge for others in the state. Because the reason returning citizens have difficulty finding adequate mental health care and substance abuse care is because we all do, right? And they're just the most vulnerable, or among the most vulnerable, pardon me. So that's something for us to realize. And in terms of advocacy, it may be that we form collaborations with other groups that aren't focused squarely on reentry, but recognize that this is a sign that there's something wrong, right? And I realize we want to push beyond, but in that case, there's something missing. And as a group, we perhaps join forces with others pushing for the mental health and substance abuse care that we need in the state. Okay, coordinate reentry efforts around Louisiana. Alex is going to speak to the survey in just a bit, but one of the things I saw, we both will, you're going to come up here because you did the survey, and I got notes, so don't worry. She was driving. She's got a 2-year-old. She was here until, 7:30 before she was castigated for walking out, but she had to get, she said James Logan and I were joking because she just said, my babysitter time's out at 9, and a lot of people didn't know she's from New Orleans, and the West Bank of New Orleans, the dark side of New Orleans, and so that was an issue. So y'all, I know they had these looks around, people are like, well, there's more boudin balls left. The looks they were giving her, and everyone was like, James are like, oh my Lord, they think she's like going to happy hour, right? Applebee's still got 2 for 1. But no, she's got to get an hour and a half away, y'all. But she was crunching that data until I got the email at 11:16 at night, right? And so I made some notes this morning about what we learned. But at any rate, coordinating reentry efforts around Louisiana came up again and again. And this is about learning, organizational learning, and I think it's also about internal communications, right? We want to know what we are doing from from Shreveport on down to New Orleans and from Lake Charles to Bogalusa. I gave a shout out to Bogalusa, y'all. Anybody from Bogalusa? Hey, all right, I got some love from somebody. All right, good. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to kind of help guide us on this vision statement versus a mission statement. Vision statement is what you look to accomplish. Mission statement is how you plan on accomplishing it.
Yeah, or your identity.
So this seems more towards a mission statement.
And that's why this is not a vision statement, as I said, that we're going to use as externally focused. Actually, this is a different style of a vision statement, so we have to talk before we get a vision statement that's going to be outward focusing. So I'm well aware of that distinction, but this is for our clarifying our purposes for today, okay? Thank you for that. Yeah, a lot of people are probably thinking the same thing. Could we go to the next slide? Championing evidence-based practices to maximize impact. Okay, again, organizational learning, very important. Advocating for policies that support successful reentry, right? Seek funding to strengthen services and increase available resources. That's something that is going to work throughout these groups. We're going to talk about how it is that each of these projects might be funded, right? Or projects underneath these categories. And so that capacity building is going to be very, very important. Next. All right, so can you retreat? Can you back up? So any questions? I mean, well taken point that this is not a vision statement. Again, they're typically one sentence vision statement that we'd want outward facing. It may be that just that first portion is the vision statement to your point. What's your name, ma'am? Your name? Monica. To Monica's point, it might be just that first sentence, you know, the first piece is their vision statement. But for clarifying what it is we're doing, anything that we left out, as you say, it's very detailed, anything we left out that needs to get there. Buddy? All right. Did it overstep its bounds beyond Monica's point that it's very detailed and maybe getting into identity? The reason it does, Monica, is that we are forming ourselves as a group, so we need to get that clear. Anything that oversteps the bounds of what you see the statewide coalition doing as opposed to your local coalitions? Yes. Oh, right here, Mike.
What is your definition of a vision?
Well,
Because I know if you have a vision, then goals. You set goals to achieve the vision, then activity flow into the goals.
Right.
So you're into the goals before you're into the vision. And I don't think if you know where you're going, then you set your goals.
Where the vision is, let's go back
what
two
is the
slides to
vision?
the first piece. The Reentry Alliance works for a future in which every returning citizen in Louisiana has access to the services and resources needed for a productive, crime-free life. That's the vision, correct? So I guess if you're agreed to that being the vision, then we're good. That's the vision? Well, no, this needs to be y'all's vision. I mean, we had a moment of discussing what vision is and establishing. So.
I don't see the word success in there for those that are in the reentry, not the organization, but those that are going to be treated. I don't hear them nowhere in the vision. I hear the organization trying to seek.
Yeah, let's get the mic. Get the mic back.
I don't see the offender in the vision. And the offender is the reason for the organization. And if we don't have success for them in the vision, what I'm hearing is their organization want to be successful in seeking funding. And if funding is the primary catalyst for this organization, it's going to be like every other organization that's failed. Because when I see reentry, see, I teach reentry every day out there, and I don't get a dime for it. I'm a volunteer, and I volunteer 44 hours a day. So that tells me that funding is not the catalyst for it. It's success for those inmates.
Thank you for that point. So to the point that we had down here is that we want to make sure we're actually making a dent in the incarceration rate, right? I think this is how we bring those 2 points together. The reason this is drafted like this and why Virginia and Ohio have vision statements very similar to this as a coalition is that these vision statements, to Monica's point, are designed to draw others into the work, and it is seen that the former offenders are right smack dab in the middle of it, but it's designed to be a vision movement. So we can certainly look to success metrics as part of that vision, and I appreciate that comment.
But also remember yesterday we talked about using alternative words to offender. So in here, they are returning citizens. Mr. Jackson, Sheriff, the word returning citizen is synonymous with offenders.
Yeah, I think that's one response, but we do have a general sense we want to make a difference. Yes, Carol.
As an ex-offender, I understand exactly what he's talking about, because at times in these meetings it's been offensive to me, because he's correct in what he said. what I'm getting from it too, in a lot of areas, it's about the dollar. I understand money makes the world go around, but you're dealing with individual people who is God's creation and deserve to be acknowledged as that, not as a ex-offender returning citizen, but as a human being. Rhett yesterday said a mouthful. If y'all really paid attention, when he talked as people being individual people.
Okay, so 2 points: that we need to speak to the impact and successful return, and then primarily we need to speak to the former offender, that there needs to be a more powerful voice to the former offender's role. And so what I would suggest to you, and that's why I said this is not going to be wordsmithing, we're not going to come down for a perfect landing, and I understand our desire perhaps will be next year we can get to this point where we can adopt a vision statement, because there's a lot of energy and thought. This is just for us to get square. We know we want to make a difference for individuals. We want them to find success in productive lives, and success and productive are seen as being synonymous. So that's an important point. Now let's talk about how we go towards that support as a reentry alliance. Alex, come on up as we go through. Now advance all the way back to yes. Thank y'all. And keep putting ideas up. Mr. Jackson, Chaplain Jackson, if you have ideas. Carol, is it Carol? Yes. Carol, if you have ideas, keep going. And Alex?
We were just talking and saying, could we go back to that vision statement, please?
Yes.
That maybe what we need to do is flip the words, because right now the Reentry Alliance is front and center, and it needs to say every citizen in Louisiana being served by the Reentry Alliance.
Yep.
And making that.
Yeah, that's a great.
Okay.
That's a great potential solution. Thank you for that. All right, Alex, you want to come on up and keep the mic? I got the notes. Tell them a little bit about this survey and why we brought the survey to them first thing yesterday, and how
Well,
we're
I'm a data
integrating it
geek.
today. So you know it's not just talk, but it's action.
Okay, well, I'm a data geek, so I collect data, and it makes me very happy. And what we really wanted to do was 2 things. One is we wanted to get you thinking before you even came here today. So we also wanted to know where you were coming from as you walked in the door, and we wanted to get a sense of where some of the areas were that were important to you. And that's basically why I set it up the way that I did. So I need the notes that you have.
Oh, well, you're not going to be able to read those notes because I have drunken chimpanzee calligraphy.
Okay, well, basically,
it's just and he looks like he went by the daiquiri store, the drive-through kind, this morning. So I don't have that. I know that there was less interest in policy and more in organizational development and learning. But I wasn't going to go there until later. Alex, I was really more focused on what it is that we learned about their interest to live into this
basically,
vision.
in terms of what you're interested, I found that, let me see if I get this right. 41% said that you were interested in organizational learning and advocacy, and 42% said that you were interested in communications, and 27% of you said that you were interested in policy.
It's interesting we have so many notes on policy, given that only 27% of us are interested.
One.
Maybe the 27% have a lot of ideas,
Well, thank you. That's great.
right? But it's an interesting finding from my perspective. What's that? Yeah,
So
sure.
ideally, everyone was only supposed to check one box, but that didn't quite work out. So this isn't 100% of the pie. So that's why I say that, it's supposed to be out of 100% of the pie, but it's not. So 41% of you, so there were 66 people that filled out the survey, 41% of you said that you're interested in, your phone turned off, said that you were interested in advocacy.
Nope.
And that you were interested in, and communications. So 41% of you said that you were interested in advocacy and communications. 47% of you, almost half, said that you were interested in organizational learning. So that's the capacity building to do this work going forward. And then 27% percent of you said that you were interested in policy. Although everybody has a lot of thoughts on policy, so that's great.
No, I don't need that.
Okay.
Thanks. All right, thoughts, first of all, on that breakdown before we go into the notes. I still need you up. Alex? So before, because we haven't gotten into the real results I wanted us to do, wanted to check real fast responses to those breakdowns. I mean, does that feel right? Yeah, keep those ideas coming. We're going to take these sheets into your breakout rooms over here. Miss Carmelita? Oh, we got overloaded on this side. There we go.
It's interesting to me as a policymaker to look at what the results say, because it's mostly geared towards those who are working in the aspect of reentry, but not looking at how the barriers to reentry are led by policy. And that's really the key, and probably don't see policy as a problem for them,
Yes.
but literally it is one of the main reasons that we don't have real reentry programs, because of policies that we have in the state of Louisiana.
Absolutely.
That's very helpful. And Peter will be leading the policy conversation in just a bit, starting around 10:05. And those of you who are interested in policy, I encourage you to go. He'll be in one of the smaller breakout rooms. We'll have one breakout session here, the largest of them, which I presume will be organizational development and learning for Alex Preep, and then we'll go through with others. Any other comments about what you see up here? And keep those ideas coming. That seem to reflect where you're at. So to the point of what I learned this morning, surveying the results, I found that there were 6 key points that I found in these remarks. We'll do a report on it that we'll drill down further. We'll include it in the report from this
I had
session.
to go to bed.
What's that?
I had to go to bed. So
You
I
had to go to
couldn't-
bed at
wait,
some point.
Yeah, sorry.
She didn't have time to analyze, so you turned it over to the morning shift, right? So it's okay. But we'll put the results of the survey into the report for this session. But number one value that I saw throughout networking and developing a learning community, and that's why I led off with this conversation about us feeling a little weird back home, but here we're together with those who get it and who want to make a difference. Number 2, organizational development and learning around evidence-based practices. How is it that we can do what we do better, smarter, more efficient, more effective? Number 3, advocacy. How is it that we can work together to knock down some of these barriers? How is it that we can work with our legislature to say this is an issue that needs to be addressed? Number 4, communications to the public. Lots of different publics, right? And by the way, when you go into the communication session with Liz, you're going to want to talk about the different audiences you're addressing. And that can get pretty detailed, but you're going to work together to see how it is that you can better communicate. So you've got Liz in communications, Peter in policy, Alex doing organizational development and learning, and I'm going to be doing this advocacy piece with y'all. I've done 20 years of faith-based community organizing, and it's near and dear to my heart. Then, 5th, partner with others. This idea of partnering with others across the state to coordinate. So we don't have to do it all. We don't have to do all of mental health, right? We don't have to do all of substance abuse counseling. We need to figure out how it is that we can work with other partners to make a bigger difference. And 6th and finally, money. Chaplain Jackson said it seems to be about money, but indeed there are concerns about how it is that we will find the resources we need to be sustainable in this language, right? And I know Alex and I have this conversation quite often. Is there a way, the Pelican Institute has done some great policy work, right? This would be an example as we move forward to the next section. Pelican Institute, y'all know them. They are a right-leaning policy institute, right? They are not touchy-feely. They are not there speaking out for social justice or any of these terms. but they've got some real clear ideas about how the state can save money in order to push forward, and just a second, Warden, and how it can push forward to save money. How is it then that this can be reinvested in the work to make sure we have better outcomes? The Warden right here, could you bring that over to her? Oh, there we go, we got an extra mic. I knew the Healing Place has got to have a bunch of mics, y'all.
That reminded me of something. I'm sorry.
Yes.
My mom said one time, she said, I know that a camera adds 10 pounds, but my God, how many cameras did you have on me? Anyway, got hit by 3 microphones just now. I wanted to talk about money.
You saying I'm fat?
Huh? I'm real passionate about the fact that we talk about money, we talk about resources, but people are our resources, and everybody can do their part without, what we need to do is look at the resources we have and reuse them in a better way. Criminal justice, it's called criminal justice for a reason, because a long time ago we decided to put all our money to support this group of people that were away from us. Now we're changing that. It should be community justice, and everybody has a role to play in that. And so what we did at Angola, we lost 400 positions and gained 1,000 inmates. So what we had to do is tap back into the inmates that we had that had skills and things like that. It's just like during a hurricane, you can go from a zero to a hero. It doesn't matter who's there, and this is a disaster, you know?
Yep.
And so my point is that you just have to look at, and I think that was one of my comments about, look at the resources that are out there and just redirect them in a different way for what we need them to do now. You know?
Absolutely. So based on the survey results, we can have that understanding. And this ties into Chaplain Jackson and Carol's point that we need
That's
to
why I
see.
said it, because they were really wise, and I'm just
They
following
are really
through.
wise. No, but this is what we're looking for, right? We're coming to a common understanding that there is a way. This vision needs to capture the fact that the Carols of the world and other returning citizens, and even I was a youth offender. But as soon as they closed that cell block door, I was converted. I don't know if any of y'all were that way. Like, whoa, that's an attitude adjustment right there. I think, could you just sentence me to that? Because I'm good. We're all set. But your assets, right? You're not problems to this other point. Your assets, yes.
I think that the communication part of it is one of the most important parts because, like this lady was saying, as far as with the returning citizens, I won't say offender, but the returning citizens, you know, the people out, from what I see, the people out in the public are not so easy to support this type of thing because
We've talked about that all conference, right? Yeah.
It makes them seem like they're soft on crime or they're, you know, but we have to, I think, so I think communication we all know what we need to do, but we need to communicate this, why we need it to the majority of the people so they can kind of come in because it's going to be a hard thing to try to just do it in the small minority that we're in. So I think communication is the main thing, like advertising, being able to tell these people the reason why we need this for reentry, and it'll help all of us at the end of the day. And that goes directly to policy, because we can communicate it, then we can take the examples, like you said, from the past, look at what has worked, and try to use that, be able to expand it, you know, more technology now, you know, networking with people, doing things over the internet, you know, training these guys in every aspect.
Thank you so much for that. That's absolutely true. Your new best friend for the next 45 minutes is going to be Liz over here, right? You just drafted yourself to be first, and you may have drafted yourself, because you like to talk almost as much as I do, you may have drafted yourself. That's saying a lot, right? But you may have drafted yourself to be a spokesperson, because we're going to come back after y'all break into these different sessions. We're going to come back and we're going to speak, and everyone's going to have a chance to speak, but we want to have a spokesperson for each group. And so there'll be a spokesperson for advocacy with me, a spokesperson for organizational development and learning with Alex, for policy with Peter. We won't speak because we want y'all to speak, right? We're going to make sure we get all of our voices together and identify how it is we move forward. And we have caught up with quite a bit of time. We got started a little late because of technical challenges, but we are about to take a 5-minute break, and we're going to reassemble. This is the time for our breakout sessions, if you could advance the slides. Time for breakout sessions. I'm surprising them with the advancement. They didn't using. If you could go to the next slide. Perfect. Okay. We've already done the explanation of what these are, but from policy on through to learning and development, we are now going to take an opportunity to break up. I understand from the survey, right? That's why we do surveys, that many of you feel torn. I understand, Elaine, you said, I don't know where I'm going to go, right? There's just one reality outside the Borg. you got to go to one of these sessions, right? We need your voices in these sessions. We need you to pick and to know that the folks who are in that room are the right ones for that room, and that you're going to have plenty of opportunities to share your thoughts in other areas, both today and ongoing.